Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley at sprinkledwithglitter.com. Thanks for joining me today. As I promised you on Friday, I am back today with more inspiration from the new Pinkfresh Studio Happiness release. Today I am going to create a fun summery card using some white hot foil resist. Okay, so we're using some opaque white foil. We're using a really summery palette with some orange and hot pink and bright yellowy greens. And I'm going to do a repeat of this twist pattern. Last week I used it with my Better Press system. This is one of the press plates from Pinkfresh Studio. Today I'm going to be using it with my Glimmer hot foil system. So I'm starting out by putting it on to my Glimmer hot foil platform that's heated up. I set the timer, and once the timer ran out, I went ahead and moved the platform over to my Platinum 6 die cutting machine. I placed the foil with the pretty side down, and then I added my smooth white cardstock and my two shims, and I ran this through my die cut machine. Now here, I am using champagne foil, and I left this in on purpose. I don't end up using it. I'm going to go back and refoil this with some opaque white foil later. But I left it in because I messed this up, and I want you to learn from my mistakes. So now I have the new Cheers press plate. This is an adorable kind of cocktail themed set, but I'm only using the fruit from it today. Now, don't ask me what kind of cocktail this is because I don't know. But it's in a cute like champagne-y style glass. It has some greenery and a cute little straw and some ice. So I went ahead and heated that up on my Glimmer hot foil platform. I allowed the timer to run, and then you can see I am foiling this with some opaque white foil from Spellbinders. I've added it in the same way with the pretty or the shiny side facing the pattern of my press plate. I'm using some smooth white cardstock again and the two shims that come with my Glimmer hot foil system. And then I ran that through my Platinum 6 die cutting machine. Now, here's the deal. It's really hard to see this pattern on the cardstock because it's white on white and it doesn't have the rays that a embossing powder would have. So I'm showing you the foil there because you can see that the pattern did transfer. Now, here was the tricky part. The tricky part was lining up the first stencil. I had to kind of tilt it in the light so I could get it lined up. And then I chose a stencil that had a lot of open area to line up first. So I didn't go in order because I wanted to be able to see that I had this lined up really well with those white on white lines that were there. Now, the white does have a little bit of shine to it, but it's not like jumping off the paper like an embossing powder would. So lining up the stencil was proving to be a little bit tricky. And so what I did was I got smart. Well, a little bit smart anyway. I'm lining up stencil number 2. You can see I'm lining it up with the flower at the top and the straw and the little other bits of fruit. And this time I'm going to lay it onto a grip mat so that my paper stays in place. I'm going to use some magnets. Yes, these strong magnets from Glassboard Studio will even kind of hold in place through that grip mat that I'm using from Altenew. And this time, because I'm cutting a lot of this paper away, I'm drawing a line around my stencil, and this is going to help me line up subsequent stencils. So now that I have those lines in place, I can start inking with my other inks. I'm using my Pinkfresh Studio 1/2-inch blending brushes because I'm inking into small areas and not all of the openings on this stencil. I want them to be different colors. I don't want all the openings to be the same color. So I'm also using Ballet Slipper. And you can see when I line up the next stencil, I'm just lining it up with those marker lines that I created on the excess cardstock. So it worked out well that I did this on a larger piece of cardstock than I needed because every time I line up those stencils, I'm just lining it up with the marks. And if you have a hard time lining up stencils, this may be something that kind of can help you. If you're doing the stencils on an A2 size piece of paper, oftentimes you will have the hash marks that you can use. But if you're lining up on a larger piece of cardstock and you're lining up with an already stamped or hot foiled line, something like this might be helpful, especially when those lines are kind of white on white. Now, the cool part about foil is that it really does kind of resist ink just like a embossing powder would. So you can ink over the top and then wipe it, and then you will remove the excess ink from the top of that foil and get that really nice white outline. This is a little bit different because, like I said before, it doesn't have the rays of an embossing powder. So now I have an A2 panel of cardstock. So this measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And I am creating an ink blended background. Now I started with peach fuzz for my orange, and I ended up going to apricot because I wanted a little bit more intense of an orange. I'm using, is this bubblegum here? I think I'm using bubblegum. And you can see I'm just kind of going over the seams where those colors meet to make sure I get a good blend. So I used, I started with limoncello, but I believe I moved up to citron, apricot, and bubblegum. Now I'm taking the coordinating Cheers die and I'm die cutting all of those elements that I hot foiled and ink blended earlier. And I'm just setting those to the side, and you might notice that twist pattern with the die placed over the top. The thing I want you to learn from me is that there is a right way and a wrong way to put that twist pattern die over your twist pattern image. So there is a definite top and a definite bottom, and you'll just want to pay attention to that. I ended up not really caring for the gold over the top of this really colorful background, so I went ahead and pivoted anyway, even though I messed that up. But you'll see that pivot here. For now, I'm just arranging all of my fruit pieces using some liquid glue, and I do have some foam adhesive on the back of them to give them a little dimension, but I'm just kind of making my little arrangement. And that's because partially I don't know exactly what I'm going to do yet, and also it helps get all those little pieces off my desk and make one large piece out of them so I don't lose anything. Now here's where I decided to go ahead and add that opaque white foil to the background that I created. So I'm taking the twist pattern, I'm lining it up with this A2 size piece of cardstock that I have ink blending on, and I'm using some Best Ever craft tape at the top of this to create a hinge. That's because I don't want this pattern to shift on my cardstock. This will fit exactly onto an A2 size card front, so I'm just getting it lined up where I want it, and then I'm opening that hinge that keeps that twist pattern in place. I'm placing my opaque white hot foil onto my cardstock with the pretty side of it facing the pattern of my press plate here. Keep in mind, press plates can be used for both the better press technique and for hot foiling, so they work for both. On Friday's video, I showed you using it with the better press system. Today, I'm using it with the foiling. I'm just making sure I have everything in place, and then I'm going to lay this with the back side of my press plate onto my Glimmer platform. I'm going to allow it to heat up, and then I'm going to set the timer. Once the timer has run its course, I'm going to add the 2 shims that come with my Glimmer hot foil system onto the top of that sandwich, run it through my die cutting machine, and you're gonna see this is still really hot. That's why I'm acting really awkward here. But I'm gonna remove this white foil, and you're gonna see that beautiful white pattern on that ink blended background. And I thought this was a really fun way to use this press plate. It's also a really different look from the way I used it in Friday's card, and I love the way that this turned out. So this is not resisted. This is actually hot foiled over the top of ink blending, but you can see I use the white foil both in the kind of resist technique and also over the top. It's just a fun product to play with, and I've played with it in the past, and I'll be sure to link that video at the end of this video so you can check that out. Now I went ahead and cut this down because I wanted a nice white margin around my card, and I have my pieces kind of going. I grabbed this sentiment. This says, "Thanks for being so sweet," and it's from the Pinkfresh Studio Pure Joy Stamp Set. And the cool part of this is there is a coordinating die for this sentiment. I decided to go ahead and just stamp it in the Detail Black Hybrid ink from Pinkfresh Studio onto some white cardstock. I thought that crisp black sentiment was perfect for this card. I'm going to take the coordinating die and line that up and run it through my Anna Griffin Impress die cut machine. I do cut into the magnetic mat. It's not necessarily the way that it's designed, but I've used it like this for years now, and I love doing that because it holds my die in place without me having to grab another piece of tape or adhesive. Now I die cut the sentiment a couple of times from some plain white cardstock as well, and I'm just adding the layers behind the sentiment to give it a little bit of bulk, a little bit of weight, and a little bit of stability on my card front. Then I'm going to take this and add some liquid glue to what will be the right side of the sentiment here, to add it kind of over the top of my fruit medley or my fruit salad that I have built up here. I'm just going to kind of lay that in place. You can see originally I had one of the banners from the basic banners die set die cut, and I thought I might use that. I ended up liking it better without the banner. I had actually kind of sketched out using the banner when I kind of created this card in my head. I decided not to use it. I went ahead and added this entire grouping onto my card front using a little bit of foam adhesive, and then I added that card panel to my A2 white top folding card base with another layer of foam adhesive, and I finished it off with those Pinkfresh Studio clear droplets that I've been using so much lately. And that finishes off my card featuring brand new products from the Pinkfresh Studio Happiness release. I love this summery card. Let me know in the comments below. Do you love it too? Do you love this color palette? I love all the bright colors in this card. Now, as always, I will have links to the featured products used in these projects in the description at YouTube. So if you're looking for anything in particular, be sure you check there, or head on over to my blog at sprinkledwithglitter.com. I'll have that linked below as well. This project is part of an Instagram hop happening today to celebrate this new happiness release from Pinkfresh Studio. So head on over to my Instagram for lots of inspiration and prizes. As always, I want to say thank you so much for stopping by and watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notifications here so you don't miss any of my paper crafting and card making video tutorials. Thanks again for stopping by. I'm so glad you're here. And until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day.